He was in this place called Gokula. This is his childhood. Much has been said about his childhood. Innumerable songs have been written about him. The legend has lived for 3,500 years as if it's yesterday. Probably in most families, they talk about Krishna's childhood much more than the childhood of their own children or grandchildren, even today. So it is such a celebrated childhood because he just drove people into a frenzy with his simple beauty, his smiles and his flute, and the dance in his step. We want you to go through the different phases of his life as he went through it and as people around him went through it. We will just melt into this atmosphere and try to imbibe this and live that way. So especially for those of you who come from outside the country, I want to fill you up on a lot of cultural aspects so that you can grasp it to whatever extent. So all these pots hanging, these calves and cows and the cowherds, this is an essential part of a pastoral culture. In the Indian villages even today, curd and butter is still stored like that in the pots hanging up there to avoid the rodents and children. So Krishna very joyfully, very proudly, he says, I stole butter. If I don't steal butter, there would be no zest in the village, no excitement. So he and his friends slipped into other people's homes, opened the tiles in the roof and got in. And they would be hung high up there so that the children cannot reach it. So they climbed on each other's shoulders and got it. Or when it was too high and they couldn't get it, they took a stone and hit. So this curd and butter, if it made a small hole, it just poured out and they drank with their open mouths. Or sometimes it cracked and the whole thing crashed down, so they gobbled it from the floor. They shared it among the friends and always there was excess, because there was just a few brave boys who will do this. Others are playing it safe. So they called them monkeys and fed the monkeys. So people, this is all very romantic, but it's like your refrigerator has been raided by your neighbor's kids. That's the reality. So some are angry, some are, heartbroken, but they were not as paranoid as people are today. Today they would get neurosis. Those women were not made that way, they got angry, it's their livelihood, it's so many things. So they complained about Krishna constantly. So when they came home to complain to his mother about what he has done, he very proudly says, I would hide behind the mother and make loving eyes at them, and they would smile. So even if they're angry, these gopi women were wonderful. You just have to make lovely eyes at them and then they will be okay. So much culture, song and music and dance has evolved around the simple pranks of Krishna and his friends. Here, all this happened. One thing is because there are other aspects to his life, but one very basic thing is he was irresistibly beautiful as a man. Even as a child, people were just drawn to his physical self, the way he was. In the northern part of the country, where generally people were fair, he was dark complexioned, bluish-black color. But he was so attractive as a child that people were willing to overlook all the quite terrible pranks that he played along the way. When he got into these butter thieving pranks and that's what they were trying to display a little bit there, the dance. As he got a little bigger, 5, 6 years of age, he got more organized. As he got more organized in his efforts, people who were losing their butter got more and more distressed. So lot of complaints started pouring in to his mother, constantly people coming and complaining that your boy, please keep him at home, he's our refrigerator. So it became a little too much. So Mother Yashoda scolded him. He had his way with her. If she scolded, he knew how to cry immediately. He put his face down on the floor and just cried and bawled, just waiting for her to attend. He even goes to the extent of saying, I did get angry, but not like other people. When other people got angry, for example, when my elder brother got angry, he screamed, he stamped his foot, he got he paced up and down. I could see he was wasting a lot of his energy. I did not get angry like that. I just got angry to the extent it was necessary. He says, even my mother used to get angry. When she really got angry, she wasted her energy, knitting her brows, twitching her nose, throwing herself around. But I did not get angry like that. I got angry just only to the extent that it will serve the purpose. So he played all his tricks, but he got a real scolding one day. So he thought these people who are simply constantly coming and complaining, he has to teach them a lesson. So he was seeing what to do with other gopis who are constantly complaining. There are young ones, old ones, child gopis, all kinds. So he was thinking up a plan, what to do. Then in the middle of the afternoon, he was just walking near the river bank and he found all the gopis were having bath in the river. He saw and he thought, okay, this is a good way and this is going to be fun. So he went hiding in the bushes slowly. Then all the gopis had kept their clothes in the river bank and gone into the river. This is the times of the day were fixed when the men can go to river and when the women can go to river. So women had total freedom in the river, nobody would come there. So he just bundled up all their clothes and climbed up the tree and just quietly sat there. They were playing in the water, having bath, then when it's time to come out, they came out and saw, to their horror, the clothes were missing. They screamed and yelled because they have no clothes now, where to go? Then when they started screaming and howling, he started playing sweet notes on his flute. Then they screamed at him, abused him and said, "Come down, you fool." He just continued to play his flute, not bothered by what they're saying to him. Then from screaming and scolding, they came down to pleading and begging, "Please." After much begging, he told them, "Okay, if you want the clothes, we make a deal. You don't go and complain to my mother again and again." Do you get that? They said, "Okay, anything," because they're naked. Then he took out the clothes, one by one he threw them down, one at a time. So every time a piece of cloth is thrown down, all of them rush to find out whose it is. So he had a long play with them. One thing is, he's making a deal and fixing them. Another thing is, he's curious about their bodies. He's just 7. Then when everybody got their clothes, he got down and playing his flute, he walked away. So among themselves the women said, "Oh, what a terrible boy, what a sweet boy. Oh, aren't we glad that he's only 7, not 17? So he wondered, what difference would it make? 7 or 17, what difference does it make? Why are they talking like this? He went home and by then the news has reached the mother. Then when he knew that somebody has come and told the mother, he couldn't believe why these women are so talkative. Even when it is going to bring shame to them, they still can't keep their mouth shut. They have to go and talk. And how ungrateful they are. Because if it is not for me today, they would have had to walk naked through the town in broad daylight. I gave them the clothes. How ungrateful they are. But he was not resentful about it because he thought it's just a temporary phase anyway. He went home and mother was angry. She said, "Enough is enough, you come," and she held him by his ears, dragged him, and she took a cane and gave him a little bit of design on the backside. And he couldn't believe why his mother is so angry because normally she gets angry about many things. But if he smiles at her, if he makes… she'll be okay. But today she's not relenting, she's continuously angry. Because the mother has sensed that he has graduated from butter to breasts. Then she was doing her work, churning butter. He thought, okay, her anger is over, and tried to go and pull her sari and tried to make peace with her. After all, why are you so angry? I have been so kind to them today. Otherwise they would have had to walk naked in broad daylight. I gave back the clothes. I was good to them. Why so much anger? But mother was not willing to relent. She just looked at him as if she's going to eat him. Then he thought, what's happening? Then his father came and the mother told, "This is what your boy has done." Nanda, his father, laughed uproariously. Then he thought, women have some funny ways about the clothes. And again he tried to approach her, she just glared at him and growled at him. Then he thought, she's going too far. After all, what did I do? I was good to this woman and they complained out of their ungratefulness. And why is she going like this? Then the mother got up and went to attend to some other errand in the kitchen. So he just went straight to the butter pot, just not only picked and ate the butter, he broke the pot and took all the butter in his hands and went out and called the monkeys. There was a pounding wood there, a large wooden pounding wood, and he went, sat on it and called the monkeys. 1, 2, 3, 4 monkeys came one by one. So he just gave them butter. They all happily ate, spilling a lot on the floor. He also ate with them. It was a pot full of butter. So he was just being generous. Then the mother came and saw the butter pot was broken, and already she was so angry, and now she knew what he's been doing around the town. So she came, and now she's really angry. She caught hold of him. She came with a rope. He was sitting in a pounding wood, and she just tied him up to the pounding wood. And she said, this will teach you a lesson. You're going too far. When will you change? So she tied him up to a wooden pounding wood. So initially he cried and tried to get her attention. She didn't relent. Then he got angry. Then he used all his strength. This was normally not possible for a child of his age, but he just dragged the pounding wood, a very heavy pounding wood, and dragged it on outside. He looked out, nobody was there. Everybody has gone out for their work. Normally, when certain gopis made too many complaints to his mother, what he would do is, he and his friends would identify that particular woman who's making too many complaints, go to her house when they are not there and let out their calves and open the gates and chase them out, so that they'll have a hard time finding these calves in the evening. They have to run all over the town to catch these calves. So he was tied to this wooden mortar and he pulled it and he went on. A little child of 7 years of age, dragging a huge pounding wood, he made his way out. It's the middle of the afternoon. All the village folk are busy with their work, nobody to see him, so he just dragged on and went towards the forest. Because all the cowherds, his friends and the elders, everybody will be there in the forest. And above all, he wanted to teach his mother a lesson. She's being unreasonably angry. He was good to those women, but she's being unnecessarily, unreasonably angry. So he wants to teach her a lesson too. So he dragged this on and went. Then, as he was going towards the river and the forest, there were 2 trees. So he passed between the trees, but the pounding wood wouldn't pass, it got stuck. So he pulled it with such strength that these 2 trees just crashed, got uprooted and crashed. After this, he was all bruised with the rope and he was tired. He just sat there. He waited. His mother didn't come. It looks like she was still angry or she had not noticed. So he started crying. Then he heard two voices, female voices, and he didn't want to be caught with tears in his eyes. He wanted to make it look like it was all fine with him. It's his mother who's in trouble, not him. So he just, you know, how you have a terrible fight inside the house and open the door, "Hello, good morning." "Oh, it's a wonderful day." You know. So he put on his best smile and sat there. One younger girl and a little older girl came and they noticed. Krishna noticed the younger girl was Lalita, who was his playmate. The older girl, about 12 years of age, he did not know who she is, but he was just drawn to her. She came and both of them came and looked, "What happened to you? Who tied you up like this? How cruel! Who did this to you?" This girl, the 12-year-old girl, was Radha. Radhe, the moment she set her eyes upon Krishna, a 7-year-old boy, from then he never went out of her eyes. He lived in her eyes. From that moment, for her whole life, Krishna just lived in her eyes, whether he was there or not there, whether he was physically there or not there for her, every moment of her life, he just lived in her eyes as far as she was concerned. So much so that after this many years, we still cannot think of them as two separate people. We will go into the story later, but this is just a few years of childhood together. After 16, after Krishna was 16, he never saw Radha again in his whole life. But that 7 to 16, those 9 years that he spent with her, just made her so much a part of the whole thing. He met so many people, he did so many things in his life, he married many times, but Radhe just lived. To put it in her own words, she said, "I live in him, he lives in me, and that's all." It doesn't matter where he is, with whom he is only with me. He cannot be anywhere else. So just that one moment, from that moment when she saw this little boy of 7 years, you could never separate the two. 3,000 years later, you still cannot separate the two. Some very puritanical religious people try to separate the two. At certain points in history, they tried to eliminate Radha, because Radha is the bad girl of Mahabharata. She doesn't come into any kind of code or social structure. She's the bad girl in the society. So they wanted to take her away and present Krishna in a more divine format. But whatever they did, they could not weed Radhe out of Krishna's life. She tried to untie him from the mortar wood. Krishna said, "Don't do that. because I want my mother to untie it so that she can work her anger out. If you untie it, she may still remain angry. If she has to come in search of me and untie it, then it'll help her to go beyond her anger. So you don't untie it. So the girls asked, is there anything else we can do for you? So he told Lalita, the 7-year-old girl, go get me some water. He wanted her out of the way. So Radhe and Krishna sat together, a 7-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl. And these two beings in many ways merged into one in that single meeting. Nobody could put them apart after that. Life took them in different directions, to a point where after 16 he never again saw her. But still, they became one. And the day Krishna was very proud of his flute, and his flute was absolutely mesmerizing. He was like a Pied Piper for the adults. If he played on his flute, people, cows and animals, they just gathered. But the day he went away from Radha physically, from that day he never played his flute. The day he physically separated himself from her, from that day he never again played his flute in his whole life. He gave away his flute to her. She started playing it, but he never played it again. When he was a little boy, he proudly says, I am the best flute player in the village. At the age of 6, he says, I am the best flute player in the village. He could melt and mesmerize any kind of person. Even animals responded to his flute. But he gave away his flute to Radha at the age of 16, and after that he never again picked up a flute.